Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. I'm mad at Gilbert Gottfried. I'm mad at Gilbert Gottfried for dying last year. And I didn't know about it until this past week. I didn't know he had died. And I want to blame him. I don't want to blame the media on this one. I want to blame him because I wanted to annoy him the way he annoyed me. I can't do it. I got to practice. I got to sit and practice. And I'd spent all that time practicing, and now it's time wasted. Trying to get the Gilbert Gottfried voice right so I could be as annoying as him. But now I can't use it. That's why I think this stuff like karma is nonsense. At least Fran Drescher's still alive. But I probably got to wait for her to no longer be head of SAG-AFTRA or whatever. And should probably wait for this Israel Hamas thing to blow over too. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I am your host, the Madman. Did we not have music?
I've moved some files.
Oh, you can move some files around. Okay, so sorry we didn't get the music. Big crybabies. If you're clicking off now, it's like there's no music. What the hell? If you miss it, go watch a previous show. Anyway, so yeah, I'm the Madman. This is Shock Monkey Radio. I have social media. You can check it out over here, or I got the Patreon and Cash App. You can check that out over there. I'm not gonna spend too much time on that right now because I'm freaking tired. I don't know about you. I'm tired. Come this time of year, I'm getting pretty tired. I think it's like when you hit your 40s and stuff like that. See, when I was a kid and you'd go to like Thanksgiving and you go to Christmas with your family and stuff like that, all the 40s plus somethings, they're all falling asleep like almost immediately. They're sleeping all the time. And you're like, I don't understand how you can sleep all the time. It's Christmas. Let's go do something. Yeah. But, as I get further into my 40s, I'm like, yeah, I can't wait for Christmas time so I get some time off so I can sleep. Anyway, so I wanted to go over the holiday schedule with us all so we know what to expect over the next month and a half in regards to the holiday. So I'm assuming the 23rd next week is Thanksgiving week, EK?
Next week is Thanksgiving week.
Okay, so we're not going to be having a show next Wednesday, the 22nd. I'm going to give EK the day off. You're welcome.
Nobody else is giving me the day off.
Nobody else. Everyone else is making them work because they're off. So I'm gonna let EK off on that. It's all my decision, absolutely. So, but we'll be back on the 29th. We'll be back on that day. We'll do a couple December shows so that how do you advance the month? Okay, here we go. We'll do a couple December shows, but I think maybe the 20th through the 27th, or through the 3rd, I should say. Like, we'll take off Wednesday the 20th and Wednesday the 27th in December. Okay, EK?
Sounds good.
Last 2 weeks of December, and we'll come back on January 3rd, if you're okay with that.
Sounds good to me.
All right, but we're going to get some gaming in during the holidays, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to get some gaming in. That's part of my relaxation, okay? Plus, if I get a bunch of time, I'll get bored and be like, oh, man, I kind of got to write something. Want to write something. Need to write something. I'll see something that makes me mad, and I was like, oh, now I got show material for a couple weeks. So I'm looking forward to that, the holidays. I hope you are too. And so I just want to let you know what to expect from us in the next couple months. Yeah. All right, so this is going to be kind of a complicated thing I'm going to get into right now. You see, I've known lots of people who had college degrees. All right. I remember learning about it, I think in middle school. It's like, oh yeah, all teachers, they all went to college. And I was like, oh, that somehow makes it seem like college isn't so great after all, because I've met a lot of teachers who are idiots, some awful people who are teachers, and so I kind of learned at an early age. It's like, I don't know. I'm like, you may be really good at this, teaching math or something like that. But when you start talking about politics or something like that, I think you're kind of a moron. So I don't think that college necessarily, is an education as it once was. It's and being who I am is like I learned how to learn at a very young age, and I even got a taste for it, a taste for learning things. And so, I would learn on my own. I was the kid who read the books over the summer. Okay, that was me. All right, and I usually read them like right away. I read them right away, and I'd probably read them again before the school year started. Seriously, I was that guy. And so I guess over the years I've seen enough people to know it's like just because you went to college doesn't mean you actually know anything. It's like, yeah, you may learn some of the like arts and sciences, a little bit about that, and maybe even good enough to teach, or something. But, it's not the thing it used to be. And then when I see people who are in these college protests and stuff like that, I mean, going back to the days of like Gavin McInnes going to speak somewhere at a college, or even like even closer to our time right now, when Ben Shapiro goes speaking at campus and kids out there protesting and so forth. And now you got kids all over campuses and in the United States and the West generally. Even in England and Australia and stuff like that, with a bunch of college students out there crying free Palestine. And I think that's just a testament to how you're not learning anything in college other than how to be a leftist, how to be a militant leftist. And if considering how the price has just gone nothing but up, since I was considering going into college. It seems to me like such a waste of money. And I remember thinking, like, what if I'd gone to college instead of joining the Navy? And I think it was probably a good thing. It probably would have been better if I'd went to college in like 1995 and I got out in math. See, I would have passed some math classes. 99, get a degree in 99. I may have been okay. I may have been okay getting like a communications degree and try to break into radio. I might have been okay. But that's not what happened. I ended up joining the Navy in 97. He didn't get down to 2001. And even after I got out of the Navy, I had the option of using the GI Bill. And I decided against that because I saw what was happening. Because there was 4 years I spent in the Navy having to salute people who went to college and had some basic training. I'm talking about officers in the military. And I've just like teachers, I've met plenty of officers with degrees. And they're morons. They're absolute morons. I'm not saying they all were morons, but a great number of them. I had far more respect for like the senior enlisted than I did for most officers. Senior enlisted, when you see all those chevrons, or you see like it's a chief in khakis or a master chief, is like, oh, they got to know their stuff. They have to like compete for those ranks. And that's the way the military works. I wasn't too jazzed with past not advanced points. It's like if you're mediocre for long enough, you'll get advanced anyway. And so it's, I never really thought that those just the fact that you went to college, automatically made you a better person. I was thinking this stuff in the 90s, late 90s, when I was in the Navy. It's like the difference between officer and enlisted, the intelligence level has kind of come closer and closer over time. It's not like it's the 16 or 1700s anymore, where 90% of the people on board the ship, the sailors, were illiterate. You know what I mean? And so you needed people who knew how to read and write and do math in order to steer the ship. That was the point of officers back in the day. But now it's all kind of gotten to a middle. So I don't think it really matters. And so when I see all these people who are out there saying free Palestine out there, it's like, clearly you have no idea what any of this is about. You really don't know what Hamas is or what they're about. You don't know anything about Israel and what it's about. You have no idea about any of this, but I don't know. I think the most telling thing was something I saw this week on Twitter. It was a sign that said free Palestine. It's like you're either on the white side of history or the right side of history. And the white side of history was like Israel and the United States and stuff like that. It's like, first of all, is that the issue? Is that like skin color? If you think Palestinians are darker skinned than Israelis, you're sadly mistaken. That's not how it is at all. All right. And as far as I'm concerned, Judaism is not a race. It's not even white. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Israel is not white. And so somehow it all gets broken down into this simple thing. It's like whoever's got the darker skin is clearly oppressed. And that is ridiculous. There's history. You need to understand it all before you can even comment on something, before you even chant something like from the river to the sea, because that's genocidal. From the river to the sea, Jordan River to the Mediterranean Ocean means wiping every Jew out of that land. And if Hamas, the PLO, if all these horrible organizations that make Cobra look like sissies, Cobra, the ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world, they make them look like sissies. All right? And if you think they're right, you're a moron. And you need to find somewhere else to get an education, because I'm betting that your professors taught you that. I'm betting your professors taught you that the Palestinians are being oppressed. I'm willing to wager. And it just irritates me when you have no idea what you're talking about. You are so privileged. You think there's some sort of white privilege, and you don't even understand how privileged you are in comparison to the rest of the world. All right? The amount of information, comfort, and luxury that you have in comparison to every other person in this world, and you're out and you don't even understand enough about the people who are bleeding over there in Israel and in the Gaza Strip. You have no idea about the hardships they go through, have gone through over the past couple months. How dare you, sir? Ah, damn it. Went all Gretchen, what's her name? Greta Thunberg. How dare you? Sorry. I don't know. That was a decent rant, I suppose. All right, let's talk about the Marvels for a little bit. This movie came out. So, of course, you got all the major races covered. I'm sorry, but it seems intentional, does it not? All female, because men are bad, right? Only good people can be women. So this movie came out, and apparently the studio thought that people would want to watch this stuff. And I think back to my days as a kid when I first started reading comic books, and how there was never any girls hanging around the comic book stand and so forth. They're never really interested in this kind of stuff generally. And when you're a preteen boy and you're like, oh, I want something to read because I'm a reader. So you're looking at the comic books and you're like, oh, Spider-Man, oh, Hulk, and you kind of get these characters, you start to understand as a boy, is like, oh, riding the skateboards is fun. Jumping on my bike is fun. So imagine like web swinging through the city. Imagine flying through the air like Superman. How fun would that be? And additionally, you're starting to understand society a little bit. You're starting to see another boy push a girl down in the playground. And there's something in you that says, if I were Spider-Man, I would beat him up and web him to the wall and go tell the teacher. And that's all part of natural male development. And that's the metaphor of superheroes. The metaphor of superheroes for young boys, because let's face it, comic books are for children. All right, I think it's okay to like them as adults, but it's directly geared towards children. Superhero comic books in specific are geared towards young boys. Okay, always have been, because those are the people who buy them. All right, because young boys start to get this concept of justice, and they said, if I had the power. And one day you may grow up to have that power. All right? One day a radioactive spider might bite you and you become Spider-Man. And the first thing a young teenage boy would really think to do once they get bitten by a radioactive spider is, I want to fight bad guys. I want the drug dealers, the pushers, the horrible people that do horrible things to children. I want to stop the evil in this world. Boys naturally kind of have that idea in their heads. And at some point in their teenage years, they start getting, hair on in their nethers, and they're like, I feel like more like Punisher. And even the Punisher, even he kills drug dealers. It's a little hard edge, but I mean, That's the point. You know, it's still, he's a vigilante doing very illegal things, murdering drug dealers. But I mean, in the end, that's the impulse. That's that boyish impulse to, I want to fix the world of this injustice that I see. If a teenage girl gets bitten by a radioactive spider and she realizes she has spider powers, the first thing she's doing is she's looking in the mirror and she's like, now I'm going to finally stick it to that brace-faced Tammy Wasserstein. Seriously, because that's the kind of thing that young girls are interested in. They're interested in their social circles. They're not interested in being around their families at all. All right. And that's natural. You know, they're interested in their social circles. They're interested in boys for the first time. And they get the same kind of excitement for things like bungee jumping, roller coasters, and driving fast in cars. These are all things like young teenage girls like to do, but they don't like the idea of getting physical in, it's like, I want to beat up a drug dealer, the kind of thing that a teenage boy might have. So the point is that the comic book market, for the longest time, up until these movies came out, was always geared towards males and the male power fantasy. But now that this intellectual property has gone mainstream, of course these movie studios are thinking we need to pack theaters with everybody. And how do you do that? More women. Who's spending the money? It's like single moms. You want to know why all cars look like crap these days? Because they realize women are buying cars. You want to understand why movies are getting horrible these days? It's because they realize single moms are buying most of the tickets. All right? And they think that this is what the market wants. And it's like, no, it's not true to form of what superhero movies are. So if you want to know why Captain Marvel flopped, it's because it's not a superhero movie. Women don't understand this concept. And that's great. That's super. I love that about them. They have the actual superpower. They have the only superpower that human beings have, okay? Which is to create other human beings. Okay. That's why comic books appeal to boys, because we'll never have that kind of power. We'll never understand that kind of power. Fair. That's fair to say with your feminist movies. All right, but what I'm saying is that this doesn't appeal to anyone. Guys don't want to see hot chicks beating somebody up. Guys generally don't want to see women fighting. EK says speak for yourself, but he's a beta. You understand. Anyway, so people are like, why did this flop? And it's like, because it's not, how can I put this? It's like making, what's a girl movie, like Beaches. It's like making Beaches. But it's two guys who are like in a UFC fight against each other. And they keep having rematches and stuff like that. It's like that. It doesn't make sense. It's a mixing of the wrong genres. I'm not saying that women don't have a sense for justice, but they're just not as interested in it as men are. Holy cow. All right, we're going to go through a couple movies to review real quick. It's okay. One wasn't great at all, but we're talking about SWAT. I'm talking about SWAT. 2003 movie SWAT starring, who's that? Who we got up there? That's Colin Farrell. That's Samuel Jackson. I think the lady is Michelle Rodriguez. I always think it's hilarious when they cast this 103-pound Hispanic woman in these roles of like a cop or soldier movie and stuff like that. And they had this scene in SWAT where they did a slow pan over her tiny little body. She's ripped, but she's tiny. You know what I'm saying? And her character is this badass chick who always beats up the guys kind of thing. It's like, that girl's 103 pounds soaking wet. It's like fighting a child. It's like, get out of here with this nonsense. And then we got over there in the corner, can't forget the Ladies Love Cool J guy. Speaking of SAG, do you suppose that's on a SAG card? LL Cool J, Ladies Love Cool J.
I hope so.
What a dork. You make up your own nickname and that's what it is. Ladies love me because I'm sexy. That's his thing. That's always been his thing. He's like, it's like, I'm the sexy guy. Anyway, so this movie, wow. Big loogie popped out of my mouth. Something broke loose. I can't wait to watch that back. Maybe tomorrow. I feel like getting drunk tonight. All right. Where was I? Ladies Love Cool J. So, yeah, SWAT. What's this movie about? This movie is about a SWAT team with a very loosely thrown together plot. All right. And mostly this movie is adrenaline junkie porn. It's them going through like SWAT training and stuff like that. You know, it's like these obstacle courses and it's just adrenaline junkie porn. And I guess it's trying to encourage people to join police forces and like get interested in special weapons and tactics teams, because they do actually do very interesting things, special weapons and tactics. And if you're interested in that kind of stuff, if you're an adrenaline junkie, you know, it might be right up your alley. But for me, I'd rather have a good cop story instead of just like, people running with body armor on and pulling pistols and getting in tight groupings. You know, it just didn't do anything for me. SWAT, I guess you could call this Avengers Origin Hawkeye, because Hawkeye was in it. But, SWAT 2003, 5 of 13 stars. Adrenaline junkie porn just doesn't really do it for me. All right, let's talk about this next movie before we move into the news. Called Walking Out. You got that other pick there? You can. Last one before news. Spoiler alert. I am going to spoil this movie. And I kind of have to tell you how I feel about it. All right. So, where to start? So Bill Pullman plays the grandfather, who is he's been dead for a while, and he only shows up in like flashbacks of memories and stuff like that. But the story, I forget who is who, Matt Bomer and Josh Wiggins. I forget who is who, but it's a father and a son, and they're going on a hunting trip. And the son gets dropped off, and his dad like takes away his phone and his earbuds. He's like, nope, we're not doing any of this. We're going hunting. And so they go out in the woods camping and hunting, and the kid's trying to get himself an elk, and he's starting to get into it. His dad's like taking him through the wood, teaching him different plants and stuff like that, and how to stalk prey. I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens that men who have been in the country know how to like survive off the land. Stuff that they do, and it was really good. And it was kind of interesting up until there's a bear attack. Very surprising. Bear attack. The kid, his hand gets messed up. He gets slashed by the bear, and he's bleeding. There's an accident with the father's rifle. The rifle hits the father in the thigh. It's not good, right? And so they got to trek out of there because they're both wounded. They got to get out of there. And so the son, his father can't walk on that leg. Son puts him on his back and starts walking out of the forest, of the hills, and get back home to save their lives. And throughout the course of them walking out, his dad's giving him tips. He's like, yeah, if we go this way, such and such can happen. He's like, there's this or this. Remember that thing? We saw it on the trail. He's like, that was this point, and we did this, and we made the measurements, and we looked at the stars or whatever. And he's getting all these tips from his dad, speaking to his ear as he's like carrying his dad on his back, walking out of these mountains. And there's also like I said, memories of Bill Pullman, coaching the kid, memories he's remembering of him, of all these survival tips and tricks. And here's the spoiler: is like he walks out he finally gets to civilization, gets spotted, and they basically pry his frozen father off of him because his father died miles back, and he just kept walking with his dead dad on his back. I know it's awful. It's terrible, but it's kind of like one for those dudes posting their W's, because that's a W. The kid made it out. He kept his dad with him. It's I don't know. It's just something pulled in me, and my father. I was one of those things. I got to go hug my dad. I'm not crying. You're crying. Because all these memories that you have, like with Bill Pullman and with the father, it's all about like you're going to die one day, and you teach your son these skills so that his generation may live and thrive, and that's the point, And the kid walking out with his dad's body is a proof that all of that knowledge, all of that. All those memories that were passed down to the son is what kept him alive, kept their bloodline alive. And that's the point. That's the reason why men teach each other these things throughout the generations. I just thought it was a brilliant movie. It was like, I don't know, like dude porn. This is how dudes act. This is how dudes are. Anyway, great movie. I gave it 10 of 13 stars. Why not higher? Stark white mountains, snow everywhere, bears in the woods. I don't like it. When there's snow on the ground and somebody says, let's go camping, you are out of your mind. You have lost your mind. Let's wait till summer where we can grill something on a fire. You know what I mean? Let's glamp it, man. Glamping. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the news worth knowing. Ah, hell. Oh, I accidentally hit the button and the right thing came up. Did the thing do? Oh. Is that running slow too or what? Or did you do it again?
I'm running slow.
Oh, okay. I think EK might fall asleep. No, it's all right. It's the second half. You don't have to hit nothing until the end anyway. All right, so this is a weird headline. Biden hands China big win with military deal, experts say. Incredibly poor decision. All right, so Biden is set to strike a deal with China that would limit the use of artificial intelligence in nuclear weapons. Biden is to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Wednesday at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in San Francisco, where the two leaders are expected to also sign an agreement to limit the AI's use in military applications, according to a report from Business Insider. Do you hear they cleaned up all the homeless people and poop off the streets in San Francisco because the Chinese guy was coming? Yeah, we can't look like a poo-stained city to the Chinese.
The landlord's here. We got to clean up the place.
Landlords are here. They got to clean up the place. That's clever. You're probably right. I'll say, okay. So according to the report, Biden and Xi will agree to limit the use of AI in systems that control and deploy nuclear weapons. Yes, I think that's a very good idea. EK, do you want an AI on nukes?
No.
Yeah, I don't want AI on nukes. But the question is, is China going to not do that? And that's why we would do that. Is you don't want the enemy having a capability you don't. Anyway. So, an ideal comes to the two countries that frequently found themselves at odds with tensions continuing to flare over issues that include China's spying activities in the U.S. and its continued military buildup in the South China Sea. But the deal comes at the same time as many has warned about growing implications that allowed unfettered AI use in combat. A new reality has led us to growing ethical concerns. All right. Look, I know people want to say like, oh, the robots are going to come get us. No, I don't think so. I really don't. I really don't want like drones. I don't like the idea of armed drones, that aren't controlled by a human, I think if we take that aspect out of killing, it becomes far too video game-like and wrong. Anyway, but like I said, you can't have your enemy have a capability you don't. So I don't know what the point is even having the conversation. Yeah, you're probably right, EK. The entire West Coast is probably in China's pocket, and that's what this really is. It's all just a show. All right, let's zoom over to Israel. So Israeli troops enter Al-Shifa Hospital after killing Hamas terrorists at a gateside firefight. So Israeli troops have entered the Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza following a firefight with Hamas terrorists at the gate on Wednesday. Israeli Defense Forces surrounded the facility for days, saying Hamas had placed its headquarters in tunnels beneath the hospital. While Hamas denies the claim, its fighters engaged these intense gun battles with Israeli troops around the complex. At least one doctor at the hospital said Israel warned staff on their plans to enter the complex on Wednesday. Troops say they brought medical supplies for patients inside who have suffered for days under dwindling supplies and fuel. It is unreal what Israel has been doing in this war, in the sense of humanitarianism. You know, they're constantly warning people. They're saying, hey, you better get out. But, you know, Hamas is not letting people get out so they can bring out the dead bodies and say, look what those evil Israelis did. Anyway. Enough of my editorializing. Quote, before entering our hospital, forces confronted by explosive devices and terrorist squads. Fighting ensued in which terrorists were killed, the IDF said in a statement. We can confirm that incubators, baby food, and medical supplies brought by IDF tanks from Israel have successfully reached the Shifa Hospital. Our medical teams and Arabic-speaking soldiers are on the ground to ensure that the supplies reach those in need, it added. See, Hamas wouldn't do that. The Israelis get there and make sure people who get what they need. Hamas would just take it for themselves. All right, the fate of the hundreds of patients inside has been a focus of international concern for days prior to Israel's assault. The hospital said at least 2 children born prematurely died due to lack of available medical care. Well, that's all on Hamas, if you ask me. Israel says it attempted to provide some 300 liters of fuel to the hospital earlier last week. Yeah, I remember this. But the Hamas administrators just refused the exchange. Anyway, so let me talk to you for a second about the Geneva Conventions. In the Geneva Conventions, you're not allowed to put military stuff under a hospital. I don't know if you know anything about the Geneva Conventions, but that's a war crime, you know. And if the UN would do anything or should do anything, it should be to declare what Hamas is doing as a war crime, you know. You're not allowed to do that. I know people when people talk about the quote unquote rules of war, you know, it's kind of absurd. You know, anything goes in war, and it's like, I guess so, but there's a reason why the Geneva Conventions were made. It's because of stuff like this. This is detestable. This is awful. You know, putting your own civilians in between you and the enemy is terrible. Anyway, it took a couple world wars for people to figure that out. Anyway, not that, you know, any of this is funny. All right, let's talk a little bit about Trump. So Trump to remain on Michigan ballot after judge rejects 14th Amendment challenge to eligibility. So they're really trying this. So former President Donald Trump will remain on Michigan's ballot for the state's 2024 presidential primary, a judge ruled on Tuesday. Trump's opponents have argued in multiple states that the former president is ineligible for office under the 14th Amendment. They state that Trump's actions surrounding the January 6th storming of the U.S. Capitol constituted insurrection against the U.S. Michigan. Sorry. This January 6th, you know, if that was an insurrection, it's the most pussy-ass insurrection I've ever seen. All right? You would think somebody who seriously wants to do that would, I don't know, bring guns. I don't know. If somebody asked me, it's like, we're brainstorming. How do you do an insurrection? What do you think we might need, first of all? One guy's like, maybe coffee to start. Well, coffee. Good call. What else do we need? Any other ideas? Maybe guns? Guns! Perfect. We got the perfect group of people here to figure out how to have an insurrection. Mini rant. Michigan court claims Judge James Redford rejected the argument, however. The judicial action of removing a candidate from presidential ballot and prohibiting them from running essentially strips Congress of its ability to vote by 2/3 of each house, removes such a disability, Redford wrote. I don't know law, so I don't even know if I should read the next part of this. Anyway, the question is whether he is ineligible due to the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment presents a political question that is non-justiciable. At this present time. I knew I was in trouble. I knew I was in trouble when all the legalese started coming out. Yeah. So Trump is also facing a similar effort to remove him from the ballot in Colorado. Currently pending is a Colorado lawsuit. Watchdog group Citizens for Responsibility and 6 Colorado voters filed their lawsuit in September to block Trump from appearing on the ballot, citing the 14th Amendment. Anyway. Boy, do they hate him, huh? Boy, they hate him so much. I don't get it. It's like people who hate the Jews. I don't get it. I mean, haven't you ever met a funny Jew?
Lots of them.
Lots of funny Jews. Haven't you ever laughed at something that Trump has said? Even if you don't like him, it's like, what a goofball. What a moron. You know, even if you're angry at what he said, don't you laugh sometimes when somebody says something that makes you angry and you're just so angry you don't know what to... You're just like, oh my God.
Have we ever had a Jewish president?
Jewish president? No. I don't think so. But I would doubt it. Let's not forget. Let's not whitewash history, as they say. You know, the triumph of the will was filmed here. Okay, you know what I mean. All right. So I mean, yeah, I don't think there's ever been a Jewish one. If they are, they're probably quiet about it. If they were. Anyway, you want to talk about Pink for a little bit?
Okay.
What she had, like the early 2000s, she had that album that came Misunderstood that came out. Was it early 2000s? I don't know. I think that was her peak. And she looked good back then, but now, you ever seen her these days? Anyway, so music superstar Pink was hit with community notes on Twitter. I'm not saying that. I'm done with that. For falsely claiming some of the most celebrated books were banned in Florida schools due to pornography. Pornography, really. On Monday, the singer went viral with her attack on Florida's education reform laws that crack down on books that aren't age appropriate. Here's a quote. The following are some titles of books that have been banned from schools in Florida. Let me know, LMK, which book is pornography. Here's the book list. To Kill a Mockingbird. The Hate You Give. Forrest Gump. A Catcher in the Rye. The Hill We Climb. Girls Who Code. Atlas Shrugged. 1984. The Kite Runner. The Bluest Eye. A Wrinkle in Time. The Diary of Anne Frank. The Fault in Our Stars, etc., 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 Pink wrote. Some good books in there. Anyway, critics piled on the Grammy winning. She won a Grammy? Really? Anyway. So much that they piled on her so much that her post was slapped with a disclaimer saying this list has proven incorrect. Yeah, I would hope they're reading some of those at least. Quote, these books are not banned in Florida. In fact, they are on Florida's, required reading list. Okay. Some are on Florida's required. Okay. The notes also include a link to the August 2022 article from USA Today debunking the fabricated list when it initially emerged. But that hasn't stopped Pink from taking her advocacy to the road. Earlier this week, she announced that she'll be giving away 2,000 banned books, quote-unquote banned books, at her upcoming concerts in Florida. Quote, I'm a voracious reader, and I'm a mom of 2 kids who are also voracious readers. I can't imagine my own parents telling me what my kids can and cannot read, let alone someone else's parents, let alone someone else's that doesn't even have children that are deciding what my children read, Pink said on Instagram. See, I think she's conservative and doesn't even know it. When you're using words like voracious, you sound like a conservative. Plus, it makes me believe you when you say you're a voracious reader. So Florida's education reform efforts were the subject of intense scrutiny among liberal critics over the past year, especially the Sunshine State's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis is seen as a presidential contender. You remember all that don't say gay stuff. While classics like Catcher in the Rye and Atlas Shrugged were never actually banned under the DeSantis administration, a selection of books were pulled from school libraries where they're deemed pornographic material, most notably books like Genderqueer, stuff that involves that. Nobody's saying you shouldn't read To Kill a Mockingbird. In fact, I think you should read To Kill a Mockingbird because it's an amazing book, You should read A Wrinkle in Time. I didn't like it, but you should read that. What up, Forrest Gump? I think that one may be contentious because a lot of N-words in that. I think the same with To Kill a Mockingbird. A lot of N-words in those two.
1984, though?
1984.
How appropriate for the times.
It's appropriate for the times. That's why I think people should read it. 1984. You read that? You read it? Did you have to read it in school? Mm-hmm. Wow. That sucks, man. I wonder if it's like, why didn't I read it? Because I was in creative writing, I think. Anyway. So here's the thing. I guess people who are going to Pink's concerts, aka dumb people, will be given free books. I'm going to chalk this up as a win. Good job, Pink. We all on the same page on this? Good job, Pink. That's a win. All right, 2 more stories and we'll get out of here. Let's talk a little bit about sports. Also, I appreciate you guys not getting on my case about being so wrong. So very wrong about the World Series. Oh, there's definitely going to be a game 6 and 7. Totally. There's too much money on the table. I was surprised. That very night, the series was over. All right, so Devlin Hodges shares displeasure with Megan Rapinoe's thoughts about God. So I don't know if you watch sports balls or you're interested in any sports balls, EK? Not interested? Okay, I guess he's straight. So former NFL quarterback Devlin Hodges has joined a group that has taken displeasure in soccer star Megan Rapinoe's comments about that there isn't a God. In her final match of her professional career, Rapinoe said that a potential Achilles injury that she suffered was proof that there isn't a God. Quote, I'm not a religious person or anything, and if there was a God, this is proof that there isn't, Rapinoe said during a post-game interview. This is effed up. It's just effed up. 6 minutes in, I eat my Achilles. Why didn't you say God ate your Achilles? Since, I don't know. It depends on how you look at it, I could have said it's like God's justice. But that's just me. There's some people who's like, I don't believe in a vengeful God. And I was like, I hope he's vengeful. So Hodges saw the video clip and commented on his Twitter account. Wow, for seeing this. For those seeing this, Hodges began his post. Just know that there is a God and he has wonderful plans for those who believe in him. Hodge wasn't the only one to comment on Rapinoe's thoughts. Former ESPN anchor Sage Steele said that Rapinoe's comments were narcissism at its finest. Correct. Rapinoe continued to detail her Achilles injury after the final match of her career. Everyone was always like, who kicked me? She said via the Seattle Times. And obviously no one was even around me. I was pressing. That's what it felt like. It's just a huge pop and you can't even feel where the Achilles is. I'm pretty sure I tore my Achilles. Worst possible outcome. For sure. Thank God I have effing deep... Boy, she's a potty mouth, huh? Thank God I have an effing deep well of a sense of humor. It's devastating to go out in a final so early. Rapinoe's OL Reign fell to Gotham FC 2-1 with blah blah. Who cares? like second thought. Why are we even talking about this person? Yeah, and I'll tell you why we're talking about her because she was talking about God. And I find atheists to be interesting in this regard. Is like they're in many ways it's almost like they totally believe in God and they're mad at him. They're furious at him. You may not believe in religion or anything like that, but I mean, I've found that most people who are atheists are furious at God. People who are like chill and I don't know, man, none of us know, are agnostics. Those people are pretty chill. It's like, hey man, you may be right. Rajneesh may be right. Abdul may be right. And that's where I disagree with him. It's like, no, I'm right. Those things are made up religions. And he's like, and so when you run into atheists, like who am I thinking of? Bill Maher. Bill Maher is a guy who was probably forced to go to his what do they call it? The synagogue and stuff like that. Hated it. It's just like any Catholic kid, be forced to go to mass. You got to dress up. You got to be still. Can't fart in church and all that. I'm sure even Jews have rules like that in synagogues, right? You can't fart in the synagogue?
You sit in your own pew.
You sit in your own pew. God, EK loves the puns. But I mean, boy, you're always throwing sticks under my roller skates. I forgot where I was going with that. Bill Maher, yeah, he's just so, it seems like he's angry with God. You know? There is a God. You should believe in him. You should pray to him, talk to him, and say things to him like, Lord God, I just tore up my Achilles. This really hurts. Please don't let the pain that is happening in my body come out of my mouth when I'm doing a post-game interview. I'm in a lot of pain. I'm very irritated. Please don't let me curse you in front of the whole world just because I'm angry. Listen, if you're working in your house alone, you're hanging a picture and you hit your thumb, with a hammer and there's no one else in the house and you say, God damn it, Jesus Christ, I'm not gonna fault you. I don't think God's that picky. All right. But if you come out there and you get home, you got like a bandage around your thumb and you come home and your wife sees a hole in the wall because you failed to hang the picture and there's blood splattered on the wall because you hit your thumb. And she's asking you, it's like, what happened? And it's like, well, apparently there's no God. What? Because if there were a God, he would have found the stud for me. That's all Megan Rapinoe needs is a good stud. Let's go to this last story after that awful, awful joke. So you ready for this? When I read this article, I read it twice because I was like, I am so on board for this. Last story of the day, and I love talking about this kind of stuff. One-of-a-kind Florida Man games, including evading arrest and beer belly wrestling and other competitions. The first ever Florida Man games are set for February 24th, 2024 in St. Augustine, Florida, and this competition is unlike most others. The Florida Man games originate from bizarre news headlines that often come out of the Sunshine State. Florida Man Games founder Pete Melfi is no stranger to these wacky headlines as he has been covering them for many years. Melfi had a vision to convert strange viral Florida Man headlines into a hilarious competition, and the Florida Man Games were born. Quote, there's definitely a common theme that goes along with Florida Man. I tried to think of a way we can encompass that Florida Man into the event, Melfi told Fox News Digital. I went on to say, after we're talking about this event, it kind of evolved into, well, how do we make this a competition? And how do we find out who's the best Florida man out there with the best group of Florida men in there? Oh, I would have been loved to have been in that room where that debate happens. Florida Man Games will feature five main competitions for teams. You won't find games like tug of war or balloon toss at... This writer's awful. Who is this? Ashlyn Messier. But you will find an event called a catalytic converter, 2 bikes, and a handful of copper pipes. A race against time. Well, I was thinking of the courses. Like I said, I covered these stories forever, and I just tried to get the most common things with Florida Man, said Melfi. There's often catalytic converters involved in these things in Florida. Got a big problem with people stealing copper. I tried to encompass as many of those things into the competitions as possible. Another unique competition at the Florida Man Games will be the evading arrest obstacle course. In this competition, participants will be chased by real police officers who volunteer to participate in the event. Are you on board yet? Quote, I was definitely surprised by how many we got, Melfi said of the police officers who volunteered. Quote, I have a great relationship with our St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, and our Sheriff Rob Hardwick is great. He loves getting involved with community events, and he's a fun guy, so he's really cool fit and offered this and that, so many people are willing to take us up on this, Melfi said. It's something they're excited about being part of. Other events of the Florida Man Games include a weaponized pool noodle, mud duel, okay, Category 5 cash grab, and beer belly Florida sumo. 16 teams of 3 to 5 will be chosen to participate in the Florida Man Games. Melfi said the event has already received well over 200 applications. The best of the applicants will be asked to submit videos of their teams. Some teams have gotten ahead of the game by sending in wild videos along with their applications. Quote, we got one guy who pulled a live alligator out of a lake on video just to submit for this thing. And he slips during the video, and the gator turns around and snaps at him, Melfi said. Please don't risk your life to enter this thing, he added, but we're definitely looking for wild. You know what he just said, right? We don't want you to get hurt, but that's exactly the kind of thing we're looking for. The deadline to submit a team application is November 15th, so get them in. There's also general admission tickets available for the event and plenty of other activities to participate in, such as a chicken coop bingo, mullet contest, a ride on a mechanical alligator, and an obstacle course. Melfi's goal to get the first ever Florida Man Games is a simple one. My main goal is just a day of laughter. Everybody walks away with their midsection sore, even if we don't make a dime on the event. If everyone leaves laughing, this is going to be a success for me, Melfi said. First ever Florida Man Games begin February 24th in St. Augustine. Here's this. Dan Nitro Clark and Lori Ice Federick of American Gladiators will be judges at the Florida Man Games event. I'm on board for this. Aren't you? Dude, that guy's going to make a fortune. He is going to make a fortune. So this is going to be the end of the show. I want to remind you again that I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. Or you can send me money through Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio. You can follow me on social media on Twitter at DNALETSAW. That's the word wasteland spelled backwards. On Facebook, look for Shock Monkey Radio Redux. And at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. I also have books available for digital download. Search the links down below. I would appreciate that. Yeah, this has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.